What's happening with this massive failed $700 million development in Richmond could have lasting consequences for the entire real estate industry in Greater Vancouver. This project is a perfect example of what happens when developments go wrong, and it might tell us a little bit about where the market could be headed next. You see, Vancouver developers are usually pretty secretive about how the projects are financed, at what rates, and how the projects are managed. So having a case like that gives us a rare peek behind the curtain, and it also shows us how spectacularly things can go wrong if the money stops flowing. The project in question is called Atmosphere and has been in the news quite a few times over the last few years. It was supposed to be located on number 3 road across the street from Lansdowne Mall, and it was supposed to take the entire city block with 7 residential towers and some office towers. The project started taking its shape back in 2017, so 8 years ago. It has gone through several stages and it actually got approved building permits. It also got a few of the towers sold out, including a purchase of 2 towers outright by Global Education City Richmond, who are a company, from my understanding at least, that brings in international students and houses them. This purchase alone was worth over $100 million, not to speak of the rest of the other units that have been sold out. In 2019, Romsen Investment Corporation began providing financing for this project by first lending $90 million to the developer at 10% interest rates. Now remember, this is 2019, back when interest rates were quite low, so having 10% interest rates, yeah, that's very high, and that is the very first red flag, which we'll come back to later on. Later on that year, the developer, whose name, by the way, is Older Bridgeway LP, has asked the lender for more money, $422 million loan to be exact, for the construction of the project. Now, this was supposed to be a temporary solution until they would find other more permanent partners to syndicate the loan. In other words, divide the debt and divide the risks between several other lending partners, and I'm guessing to also reduce the interest rates, because remember, the loan was supposed to be at 10%, which is just insanity. In March of 2020, Romsen Corporation has already lent over $143 million to the developer for the construction as well as the development of this project. Now, at that point, they informed the developer that they're not going to give them any more money towards construction because they couldn't find any other partners to sort of syndicate this loan. They also claimed that a pandemic has played a great role in that a lot of other financiers didn't really want to go into business. From that point on, the construction of this project has halted. There was just a big hole in the ground, and in mid-2022, the Atmosphere project was placed under creditor protection. In other words, it was heading towards foreclosure type proceedings. Then, in October 2022, lawsuits started rolling in. First from Global Education City towards Romsen, not towards the developer, but towards the financing company, because they said Romsen has promised to finance this project. They have promised to finance the construction for the project, but here they refused to do so, and thus they were in breach of contract. Romsen also took legal action against the developer, saying that they have been owed a lot of debt that has not been repaid. This financing and interest of $1.5 million per month was occurring, which has not been serviced. The developer have also launched a lawsuit against the financier in March 2023, and all 3 lawsuits were headed towards BC Supreme Court, which ruled that Romsen didn't breach the loan agreement. They weren't in the wrong. In other words, them stopping the construction loan was all fair play. However, now the story is back in the news because just in September 2025, the BC Courts of Appeal overturned that decision, saying that the loan agreement was breached and sending this back into the courts system for trial. So this all is very interesting, and of course, a lot of people are caught in the middle of this whole legal battle because you have buyers who have purchased in this building and currently they're kind of stuck in a limbo. There is a story from CTV News back from 2023 about a buyer who put up $250,000 deposit for his 3-bedroom apartment in the Atmosphere, and he's still waiting to hear about this project In fact, the developer can delay the project until October 1st, 2026 without buyers being legally able to get their deposits back. So there's also this whole other legal battle that is brewing in the background, the legal battle between people who have purchased units in this building and the developer, because of course their deposits are kind of stuck in a limbo and nobody wants to be in that situation, especially if you bought 5-6 years ago. I mean, this is just a nightmare and this is ridiculous. Here's what makes the story truly shocking: the fact that this project has collapsed during some of the best times we have experienced for the developers. The interest rates at that time were super low and the demand was very high. Pretty much anything launched was getting sold out, yet they couldn't make this project work. Now, several things stand out to me. Number one, this 10% interest loan. Vancouver developers often complain about the fact that there is not enough profit margin left in order to reduce the prices or to build cheaper, yet somehow they're able to take out loans of 10% interest. Kind of puzzling, right? Secondly, the fact that they were even willing to take this sort of temporary loan of 10%. They were willing to take such massive risk. And that again is during the times of sort of good market. Imagine what developers are doing now. When the developers are truly struggling, the demand for new construction is at an all-time low. The financing for new construction is also very difficult to come by. At that time, the interest rates were lower, but also the credit was much more readily available to developers. Nowadays, the banks are a lot more hesitant to lend money to developers for projects. It's a lot more risky. So imagine the type of risks and the type of loan conditions that developers are taking on right now. And that is sort of the scary part of this whole thing. The developer was taking such massive risks during good times. During bad times, the risks are probably a lot greater. And these projects usually seem to fall apart overnight. Of course, it's months and months leading up to it, but then it just sort of seems like overnight this whole thing just collapsed and now the project is no more. So I wonder how many more of these type of projects and how much more of this sort of thing is happening currently behind the scenes. We just don't know about it yet. It's not in a public eye yet until it is, and until we start seeing lawsuits and until we start reading about it in the papers. The truth is, developers right now are truly struggling. I made several videos talking about this subject. Mainstream media is talking about this subject. That's how bad things have got. So you as a buyer have to be really diligent and have to be really careful if you're planning to buy in one of these new projects. If you already purchased in one of the new projects, well, I guess cross the fingers and hope for the best. Hope that the project goes through at the approved timelines, at the approved budget, and with approved quality. I guess we will see what the fallout from this whole thing is, and I will do my best to keep you updated on this YouTube channel about everything that's going on with Vancouver's real estate. Please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss those videos when they do come out. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. That helps out quite a bit. And if you're looking for some help with real estate here in Greater Vancouver, my information is below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.